Mike. I want to talk to you about taking the data that we've collected and starting to do something with it. So starting to implement a protocol that will correct some of the dysfunctions in your athletes. And even, this is not just appropriate for those athletes that display excessive amounts of dysfunction. This is pretty much applicable for every one of your athletes. Every one of your athletes could be more stable throughout all of their joints. So we like to use these drills as part of our movement preparation. As I alluded to in the blog, we don't use the term warm-up really here because there's so much more that we do at the beginning of our session than just warm the athletes up. For our movement preparation, we have 4 parts. We have glute activation, which is a big part of preventing knee injuries, and I'll get into some of the drills we use for that. Then we go into dynamic stretching, where we will have the client dynamically through different movements, lengthening the muscles that need to be lengthened while getting the tissue temperature up so the client does get a quote-unquote warm-up. Then we do movement skills integration where we will start to prep the athlete for the day's demands as far as, is it an acceleration day? Are they working on linear speed? Are they working on multi-directional speed? We'll start to use some movement patterns that will coincide with that, that will transfer into that. And then our 4th step we use is neural activation, where we will take the athlete through a series of drills that get that nervous system firing quickly and efficiently so that they are as explosive and efficient on the playing field as possible. We won't want things game speed here because that's what carries over into sport. So the first 2 are the only ones I'm going to cover here today. That's glute activation and dynamic stretching. And we have a ton of dynamic stretches that we do. So I'm only going to pick a couple that are really specific to addressing activation or strengthening of the glute med, hip mobility, and inhibiting and lengthening the adductors, like we discussed, that pull the knee in. So for glute activation, we have mini bands here, and we like to use these mini bands. We usually do one around the knee and one around the ankle to get the glute med firing. Now, I will say this: if you have a client that's you have an athlete that really is, valencing at the knee a lot, you see them when they're jumping, it's really bad. Odds are their gluteus medius doesn't fire pretty much at all. The muscle is completely stubborn. So what we like to do for the most stubborn cases, if the mini bands fail, is before they put the mini bands on, is we will have them abduct and externally rotate the hip, so they are pushing the foot out and turning the toe away from them slightly. And I'll actually have them put their hand on the side of their butt so that they can feel if it's working or not. And we'll have them do maybe 10 to 12 reps. You can have them hold at the top if they're really stubborn. Once they tell you they can feel it working there, do the other side, and then transfer the mini bands. But start out with the mini bands. Ask people where they're feeling it. If you're hearing only in the hips, regress them to that. Get the glute firing, then put the mini bands on and progress them from there. So, for the mini bands, like we said, we do one just above the knees. These bands are they're $2 each at Perform Better. We got a whole stack of them here. Shoot, if you need a few here, I've got a bunch I could sell that haven't even been touched. Or like I said, you can go to performbetter.com, search under mini bands, and you'll find them. Once you have them on, what we encourage is a good base position. So the athlete's hips drop back, right? They've got a straight line from head to hips. Knees are bent. We have the weight just behind the balls of the foot, so we can slide a credit card underneath their heels if we wanted to, but they should not be up on their toes. And then from that position, we will have them keeping the core brace tight and tall to take 12 to 15 paces out. And we instruct a long step out, short step back. We want them under tension the whole time. Long step out, short step back. Long step out, short step back. We'll have them do 12 to 15 one direction, 12 to 15 the other direction. Then we can go into some of our linear walking. So those are our lateral walks. Our linear walks would be, now the athlete is facing straight ahead the direction which they're going to go, and we'll have them keeping the inside of the feet just slightly wider than shoulder width apart. They'll step, heel goes slightly in front of toes with each pace. Straight in front of toes, straight in front of toes, and like so, 12 to 15 paces forward, and then backwards, heel in front of toes, in front of toes, in front of toes, making sure they stay in that good base position and making sure they're not overstriding, they're not coming up on the balls of their feet, and they're not turning their feet out is a big temptation during these drills. Make sure they're not turning their feet out. So that's our mini bands. Once we get them there, we will transition them to our dynamic stretching. To handle the tight adductors, what we usually do is we'll take them through a series of lateral lunges. Lateral lunges, what it looks like simply, is this. Now what's happening here is the key cues are, I always make the kids tell me, my toes will stay straight ahead, and I'll make them repeat it. My toes will stay straight ahead. Because the first thing you're going to want to see is this. We don't want that. We want lunging to the side, toes stay straight ahead, hips drop back. Notice the leg on the right is very straight. There's no bend in it whatsoever. When that leg is straight, and that knee should be on top of the toes, in line with the hip, they'll feel a great stretch in that inner thigh right there. Okay, we don't want them to cave over. We want them to keep that good base position. Drive off the inside part of the leg, come down. We'll usually have them hold for a count of 2. Again, the knee stays on top of the foot. You'll see kids doing this. You'll see the knee all the way out here. Make sure they get good distance, alternating. Okay, we'll usually do about 10 to 12 of those. They should really feel the inner thigh. And the other one we use is the drop lunge. The drop lunge is a little bit more complicated, but what happens is the athlete steps not just to the side, but forward 45 degrees to the side, keeping a nice tall upright posture, core tight, and they're literally going to, once they step, they're going to refocus their hips straight ahead, drop down, and come back up. Okay? On the other side, 45 degrees, turn the hips before they go down, working on hip mobility. They'll feel a stretch right there in that glute, down, and come back up. Driving off that leg really gets the glute to fire, particularly if you've used the mini bands first. So we've got our mini band, glute activation, and we've got our lateral lunge and our drop lunge, part of our dynamic stretching and our movement preparation, part of the training. Thanks for watching.